Hello and welcome, Stephen Weber.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming on today, and we are very excited.
We appreciate you coming on today.
Well, it's my honor, and I thank you for sharing your audience with me. I hope perhaps our conversation today will perhaps bring some love and light into everyone's life.
Yes, exactly.
Well, I would say I was a 0 on the spirituality scale. I was I was an outlaw biker. I rode Harley Davidsons all over the United States, and I liked cold beer and rock and roll. And I bought a Harley Davidson dirt bike. It was a Harley 90, and ever since then I was riding motorcycles all my life. I loved it. I lived outside New York City, and I worked in New York City, and so I'd drive my Harley Davidson in there for work. And I always kidded around myself saying it's like a video game, but I'm on my last guy, because there's so much traffic and craziness going on. But that's where I was before I even had this experience. It was something that I did not expect to have at all.
Have you had have you thought about Jesus in your life prior to the accident? Have you been to church and like a little belief system there?
Very much so. I was raised a Catholic. I received a communion, a confirmation, and I was baptized. But my father was a real church goer, and so he would bring me to Lutheran church. And although I'd much rather be out playing video games or doing something, I really enjoyed the music in church, and it was really, I really did enjoy it. But it was more an obligation, and I was a person of science at the time, and I still am. But, if I couldn't see it, touch it, or feel it, or prove it was around, I tended really not to believe. I would say I was a Christmas and Easter Catholic. That's the best way to put it. I remember taking a friend of mine, a lady friend, on a ride on the Harley in Manhattan, and after we were done, the lady said to me, Steve, how many laws can one person break in a day? Because I just kind of went with the flow, if that makes sense. In New York, where I live, there's a beach community called the Hamptons, and that's where all the movie stars and all the the rich folk have their big mansions, and all the directors and things like that. So I liked riding out there on the weekends on my Harley Davidson, and there was this little roadside barbecue place out there. You could drive past it and not even notice it. And but you had to really know it was there. And so I would go there, I'd have some barbecue, and then I'd ride back home. It was about an hour and a half ride from my house. And it was beautiful scenery. It was in wine country with all the wineries there. And so it was really a beautiful place. And so this is what I'd like to do on Sundays when I had a little bit of me time available. And so one spring day I went out there, and I had my barbecue, and I was on my way back home, and the traffic was backed up for miles. And that was unusual for that time of year. Usually in the summer it's like that, but this was the springtime, and it was, this seemed unusual. There must have been an accident or some emergency road work. And then what happened is that after holding the very heavy Harley Davidson up for quite some time, I saw people were going on the shoulder, the side of the road, to approach a right turn, and they would make that right turn to get out of the traffic and take an alternate route. So after waiting a while, that's what I did. And then as soon as I got to that intersection, someone made a left-hand turn, and big truck, an SUV, went and slammed right into the side of me. And the lights went out. I had no idea what happened. And the next thing I knew is that I was laying on the ground, and I was looking up, and some time must have passed because I saw lights everywhere, emergency workers, and it looked like the sun had set somewhat. It was darker in the sky. And I remember looking around and thinking to myself, this day is going to be like no other day I've ever had in my life. Like, my life was going to be very different from this point on. That was the first thought that came to me. And then I tried to move. It's from riding dirt bikes. There was a saying, and I know it's wrong, but if you go down, get up right away, because if you go down and stay down, you're going to stay down. And that's kind of like what I thought. So I tried to get up, and my leg, it was the skin was still attached, but I could tell the bone wasn't attached. My leg was it just hurt so bad that I must have passed out. And then the next things I knew is I was flying through the sky. I was going through the clouds, and it was getting higher and higher through the clouds. And I was thinking, that this was it. And then all of a sudden I started going down out of the clouds, and I looked on the ground beneath me, and I saw a big H on the ground with a circle in it. I realized that I was actually in a helicopter, and I was being airlifted to Stony Brook University Hospital. That's a university. I graduated from that university. My mother graduated from that university. My daughter graduated from that university. It's a premier trauma center in the United States, perhaps one of the best. And just dumb luck is that they could land a helicopter. There was a school nearby, and they were able to bring me to this trauma center. And I was gravely injured. In fact, a doctor, my primary physician, reviewing the lab reports several months later, said that this looks like an autopsy report to him, not a medical report. And what was going on is my spine was fractured. I had internal injuries. I had a compound fracture of my leg. I had a broken tibia. I could go down the list of all the things that I had. And so I went into surgery, and they had to take me in and out of surgery several times over the next few days because of the internal bleeding. And finally, they got me stabilized, and they had me ventilated on a ventilator. And to the rest of the world, for the next month, I was laying in my hospital bed. But in myself, in my awareness, I was in a completely different place, a place that I've learned to call the place between here and there. Well, the first thing I thought is that nothing seemed very different than my regular life, is that I didn't notice, it just didn't seem different. I didn't remember the accident at all. But very quickly into the experience, is I started to see that things were very different here. But for some reason, it didn't register. I think the first experience that I had was what I call learning the language of the universe. But it was really coming to terms to my life experience and perhaps going into spirit. Like perhaps, when you pass, it's not a light switch that 1 second you're alive and next second you're in spirit. It's perhaps a process by which you have to make sense of your life, where you are as a person at that time, to entering in spiritual lives. I guess the Catholics call it purgatory, but it's not a place of punishment for me. It was a place of learning and understanding. And that was critical, because the first experience I had was learning that there's spirit in everybody and everything, and that spirit can be sensed. And it's not like there was someone there who sat me down at a desk, opened up a book and said, Spirituality 101, Steve, start reading there. It was that I was introduced to different experiences, and I had to learn from those experiences. If I didn't learn, things went so slowly. In fact, at first I wouldn't learn. After a while, I would get what was going on. Then time seemed to move. And that's one of the first things that I learned in that place, is that time wasn't like it was here. You didn't have a sense of time progressing unless you were learning, unless your awareness was being raised, unless you could look back at the process that happened to get your awareness from where it is to where it is now. That gave you a sense of time passing. And so, like I was saying, is that the first things I was taught is how to see spirit in everybody and everything and sense it all around us. And the way that was done is I was in a work-like setting. I'm a computer guy, and that I saw somebody, one of my clients from life, someone who I hadn't seen in 20 years, and I was helping them with some sort of computer problem, but they hadn't aged a bit in 20 years. And that was odd to me, but I thought like, hey, perhaps he has good genes or something, And then I saw him again, and he looked like he was 50 years older. And it took me a while to recognize him. But this fella, he was from Haiti, and he had a way of He spoke English, but he spoke French, and he spoke some kind of mixture between the two languages. We call that a Creole language. And he had to act out what he was talking about to communicate sometime. So he had a very expressive face, and and so it was easy for me to recognize him again. So when he appeared to me as being an older person, after a little while, I said, "Hey, are you so and so?" And he would say, "Yeah, you got it." And all of a sudden, everything changed then, because now I sensed the energy, not only him, but I recognized it in everything, whether it was other people that were there, or inanimate objects, or the planets, or the stars, or even the rooms that surrounded us. I felt this life force energy, and that completely changed everything. And then when I began to think about where I was and what was going on, and this energy, is that I felt that each one of our energy was unique to us, but it was also common with everybody. Everybody shared a piece of the same energy. Your energy is uniquely yours, but is part of a greater consciousness. The way I would describe it is, think about cells in your body, that each cell has its own life. It lives, it dies, it consumes energy, it has a purpose. And all of those cells make up you, but not one of those cells know anything about you and your consciousness. And that's what I began to feel, is that all of our energies together make up, perhaps, what I was shown makes up the consciousness of the creation, or perhaps God, that the creator and the creation are one. God and we are one. Not any individual is the creator, but all of us together, all of our consciousness, everything that we learn and feel and grow is that of the creator. And that was the very first lesson that I learned in that place. And it wasn't that I had control over the experiences I had or anything outside the experiences, but I had free will in the experiences that I had. And once I stopped learning, I would be presented with the very next experience.
Do you know why you saw him instead of a family member?
No, but I can guess.
Okay.
All right. And I think it was because like I mentioned, I was a 0 on the spirituality scale. I had to learn this energy in people before going on to the next steps in this place. And this fella, because he was so expression, he memed things out. He didn't speak English well. And so it was easy at first for me to guess it was him.
And what else have you seen in heaven?
Well, I don't think it was heaven. I think it was a place of learning before you go to be at one with the creation. Is that I don't believe I was in a transition place. So the very next thing that I experienced after I stopped learning there is that the very next thing was I received what I've come to know as a life review. Is that I reviewed my life over and over again. But now, because I could sense energy in everybody and everything, every new situation took on a new meaning. Because not only could I see myself being there, what I thought at the time, but I could feel and sense the energy of everyone else that I interacted with. And it wasn't like I was a set of eyes, like a voyeur on each situation. It felt like I was everywhere, like I saw everything, not from one perspective. It was like I was the room. I was part of everybody and everything. I don't know how to explain it, but it was very intense. And so as I lived each one of my life experiences over again, is that I began to learn things. And each time I went through my life review, I went through it many times, because when I would reach the end of my life review, my awareness would be raised. And then I'd be in a situation to learn even more from my life review. And so I'd review my life over and over again. And that's why your experiences, I believe, are so valuable to you, in this world and any other world that comes afterwards. Because if I didn't have experiences, I wouldn't have things to learn from and grow from. It may be somebody's life purpose to sit on a mountain, Gyan Mudra, and go Om all day. And that may be their reason for life. But they may have very few experiences in that. And that's why it's so important to live life, to learn and to grow, to laugh, to cry, to all these things, because those experiences were so valuable to me in that life. Because when I did my life review, because is that I learned one thing, is that the most terrible experiences in my life, the most heartbreaking moments, and what I mean by that, it's not like I had a terrible life, is everybody has these types of moments in their life. And every time like I had hate or animosity towards myself or shame or that of other people, as I began to go through my life review and experiencing these things over again and rethinking them, I came to resolution on things that troubled me, that I didn't see Jesus, and I didn't see beautiful landscapes, what people say, or the light and things like that brought them peace. What I felt was this burden being lifted from me. My awareness was getting to the point that anything that happened in my life I was okay with, because I learned the very reason for it. And what I think the key component of that was resolving blockages, is that as you go through life and you have negative experiences, sometimes the shame is too great. And when you review it in your life, you say, oh no, that's too much and I can't go any further. And then you don't think it through. Or perhaps the regret is too deep, or the anger or the feeling of betrayal is so intense that you can't go past it. Well, that worked out at first for me, but because I had all the time in the universe, is that I would keep on going over that, and eventually I would have to address those things. And once I was able to get past those things, I would feel blissful, because I would feel this weight was lifted off me, and then all of a sudden it was like, wow, like imagine your life if you had no concerns about anything, about everybody was okay, you're okay, you have no jealousy, nothing about anybody or anything. All of a sudden, life is full of peace. And that's what's something that I brought back to my physical life, is I'm constantly in a state of life review. If I can't think back 6 months ago and think what a jerk I was, it means I'm not growing and I'm not improving. It's really the truth is that you always have to learn and grow. And what that enabled me to do is I have no shame or regret towards myself, but I have no shame or regret or anger towards anybody else. If somebody does something awful to me, I don't let them do it, but if it happens, I don't take it to heart. I learn from it. And when I make mistakes, I don't take it to heart either. Sometimes people say, oh, Stephen, it doesn't seem to bother you. No, I'm not a psychopath. It's that I've learned to learn from my mistakes. I have a good heart and I don't intentionally do things that harm other people. But if that should happen, is I learn from it. And that's the key. That's what the life experience, the life review taught me. It taught me how to learn from my mistakes and learn and grow and not take things to heart. And that is something that I use with me every day, and I value it so much. And like I was saying, the most terrible things that happened to me brought me the most bliss in that other place. And that's the truth. And I'm extremely grateful for that to this day. It's a tough thing for me to explain. And let me explain. Is that what I do is I interpret my experience. It's very tough for me to give advice to other people because they're not me. And I don't even follow my own advice, so it's a very difficult thing. And I always give the same advice to people, is to be honest, have an open heart, don't let your ego get to you. It's okay to face terrible things in the here and now. You'll get past it. Tomorrow will be another day. These are all things which your grandparents told you a long time ago. And it's all true, is that think positive thoughts. Don't let the bad things get you down. What I learned from that place is life is good and people are good even when sad things happen. But these are just words. But if you could figure them out for yourself and make them your own, you will find peace in this world and any other world that may come after. And that's probably my advice to people, is to do just that, is just to learn and grow and don't take things to heart. And everything's about experiences. It's the only thing you get to take with you. So if you have a choice of getting a big diamond ring or perhaps a once in a lifetime trip. Don't make it once in a lifetime. Make it many times, because just get those experiences. And even if something bad happens, it's okay. Just learn from it. And I'll give you an example in the here and now is that, let's say if a dog bites you when you're a young child, you take a look at it with the mentality of a young child. And so maybe you were 10 years old when it happened. And so you use your 10-year-old intellect. And so now for the rest of your life, you're afraid of dogs. But if you revisit it when you're a 30 or 40-year-old, through all the experience and understanding you have now, and you come to the realization after thinking about it, after getting over the horror and the blockage of the dog attacking you and the mean face, and you thought you were going to die, and once you get through all of that as an adult, then you may think to yourself, wait a second, is that I could tell the difference between a nasty dog and a pleasant and a happy dog. So I'm not going to be afraid of all dogs. I'm just going to be more aware of the energy that the dog is putting out. See, that is practical in the world, advice is that even if something that happened long ago ingrained you with this thought, if you revisit it with the intelligence and the experience and the passion and the understanding that you have as an adult, you may be able to clear those blockages now. And that will bring you peace, because dogs are pretty cool. So the next place, so after I was done learning from that experience, the next place is that I've later begun to understand it as perhaps I was being tested. Perhaps, this is just my interpretation, is that I was put in a situation where I had to be in charge of some young adults. I refer to them as children, but they're young adults, and I had to teach them a task. And no matter what I did, they would act like they listened to me. But when it was done and they had to do the task, they would scatter and they wouldn't do anything. And then I'd see them later and they would act like nothing's wrong, like everything's great, like perhaps they forgot about everything we talked about. And this was so frustrating to me, is that I just couldn't figure out why they wouldn't listen to me. And I was really at my wit's end. And then there was this lady who was always praying in that place, and I couldn't hear her prayers, but I felt this loving energy that was coming from her. It wasn't the words of the prayer were inconsequential. They were more like a road under which this loving, healing energy traveled. And whenever I was near her, I felt that, and it gave me that strength to go one step, to keep at this, to try to figure out what I was meant to learn in this situation. And finally, when I was at my wit's end, I stood before who I thought was in charge. And once I got close to them and I felt their energy and I looked at them and I saw their aura and I sensed their energy, I realized something, is that I was standing before myself, not Stevie Weber, who's sitting here right now. I was standing before perhaps my higher self, perhaps that part of you which is only always in spirit. Perhaps just part of your energy has a physical incarnation, and you're born into ignorance. You have the intuition, the experiences you have from past lives as your intuition to perhaps build upon and learn, but you don't have all that knowledge because you couldn't make the mistakes that your higher self could make. And so that's part of your physical existence. And when I stood in front of my higher self, it's not that I asked my higher self to solve my problems. It's like I felt this grace, this energy. I felt the wisdom. I couldn't tell anything that happened that gave me that wisdom, my higher self, but I felt that energy. And that gave me the ability to look around and see things with a new set of eyes. And what I saw is that I wasn't there to teach these kids a task. I was there to shepherd these young adults into their first human incarnation. And it was then I learned that perhaps your spirit was never born, it perhaps will never die, but it grows through many life experiences. And that's part of the energy that I felt in everything around us, is that perhaps it's not just as a person you experience existence. Perhaps it's part of the universe. Perhaps it's in different animals and things. As you learn and grow, you get to have a bigger, more spiritual experience. Perhaps as a spirit begins to care for its children, that might be the first step, that somebody goes from being, something else into a loving, caring, spiritual being. And that's what I wasn't seeing, is that I was taught all these things, is that I was taught how to sense spirit in everybody and everything. I was taught how to go through my life review and to learn from them and raise my awareness. But as soon as I was in that situation that I could use those things and learn those things and see what was really going on, I failed. All I did was see a bunch of dopey kids and who wouldn't listen. And that completely changed the way that I looked at things. And it really enabled me to use that knowledge, that wisdom, that awareness that I learned to look at my world, not just in the physical sense, but in the spiritual sense as well. Because the physical part of you and the spiritual part of you all makes up who you are. And that was almost my last experience in that place. But then I finally came to the very last experience I had in that place, at least that I remember. And I come from a small town on the North Shore of the United States called Long Island, and my town is called Kings Park. And at the end of every day, we would sit at the cliffs and overlook the Long Island Sound and watch the sunset. Like half the town would come out. People would drink coffee. Some people drink out of red Solo cups that aren't coffee. And we'd talk about all the gossip in town, like who's doing who and all those kind of things. And I found myself sitting there with my two old friends, Joe and John. They were both in their 70s. And Joey's back, he had broken it diving into the water right there in that spot as a young adult, and he had to have surgery, so he kind of like walked around like Frankenstein, like he really couldn't move his back too much. But he was this Irish guy, and he could tell a tale, with an Irish brogue, and he really was entertaining. I really enjoyed his company. And then John, he suffered from diabetes, and he was always have these infections in his leg, and it really caused him a lot of trouble. But he would do the readings in church, and he would like say, "And Jesus said," and the place would shake. He had this baritone voice. I really enjoyed him. And I'm exaggerating slightly, but he was a good fellow. And I would sit there with both of them, and I'd watch the sunset. And this went on time and time again, over and over and over again. And after a while, something happened, is that I realized both of them had passed away earlier that year. John, he died of infection in his leg. And Joey, he was hit by a car. He probably couldn't see it coming, he couldn't turn around so fast. And that frightened me. Like, all of a sudden, wow, like so many strange things had been happening to me up to this point, but I don't know why it didn't register to me. Like, I didn't have this thought, I was just going with the flow. I don't know how to explain it. It just didn't occur to me. It wasn't until this moment that I saw both of them that I knew something was wrong. There's no way they could be here right now. And it just echoed over in my mind. And then I kept on watching sunset after sunset with them, and I wanted to know why they were here. And I just ran that over in my mind. I didn't want to ask them. I don't know why I didn't want to ask them, but I didn't want to ask them. But then eventually I felt this energy that if I didn't ask them now, I would never get this opportunity again. So it's not like I said, "Hey, Joey," no, it's just, I just thought that I wanted to know this. And what they told me is that they were here to make sure I was okay. And there was nothing wrong with me. Like, I don't know what they meant, to make sure I'm okay. What? I just didn't, just echoed in my mind. And then when we watched the sunset, instead of the sun getting dimmer, it just got brighter and brighter and brighter. I had to shield my eyes. And then when I was able to open my eyes again, I was in my hospital room. My mother was holding my hand, and she was telling me that everything was going to be all right, that I had been in a terrible motorcycle accident, but everybody is here for me. And that was my experience in that place. I was in my coma for a month, and I was in rehab for a couple of months, and I would get out of my bed and I would try to go down the hallway, and the nurses would track me down and say, Steve, you can't do that. You're going to fall. You're going to get us in such trouble and blah, blah, blah. And so I was so convinced all I had to do is do these things and I would get better. I knew exactly what to do. And it was then I realized what Joey and John meant to make sure that I was okay. They didn't mean there, they meant here, that they were my spirit guides, not my spirit shields preventing me from feeling pain or anguish, but in the same way that I stood before my higher self and I received this grace that enabled me to figure things out, it's that I got the benefit of their experiences. Like I said, is Joey broke his back. My back was broken. I have all these implants in my back, and my leg was crushed. It was hanging off at one time, and John, he died of an infected leg. Who better to be my spirit guides than those two? It's not like they said one more push-up or anything. It was that I was able to understand what I needed to do to get this done. And so those were the two experiences that I really brought back with me that really helped me understand so many things in life that had happened to me or that perhaps was yet to happen. My website is betweenhereandthere.org, betweenhereandthere.org, and you can find the books or even message me on there.